we've also been given guidance over the years that what you should do to be more effective in sales is mimic the other side, to mirror their gestures, mirror their posture, that kind of thing. And it seems kind of slimy. It seems kind of duplicitous, but it's a good idea, because what it tells us is that the research tells us that human beings are natural mimickers. That in some level, our ability to take another's perspective is not purely kind of cerebral, not purely cognitive, but is embodied in a way that when we assume the other person's literal physical stance or repeat their gestures, we actually have greater access to what their perspective is. And if you look at, and human beings, if you just look at people talking in the wild, they are natural mimickers. We mimic people all the time. And so doing that, being conscious of that and doing it a little bit more is extremely effective. And what the research tells us is that when people who are instructed to mimic, they get better deals. They get they're more persuasive. And there's also a check also in these studies asking the other side, did you feel that you were being mimicked? And they'll invariably say, no, not at all, not at all. And so let me give you one piece of tactical advice, particularly for your B2B people, which is the one realm where this is really useful is in technical sales, because technical sales folks love their own specialized jargon. And in many cases, the people who they're calling on aren't necessarily experts in that specialized jargon, those specialized words. So you're using words and phrases that might not land with them. But a remedy for that is to repeat back the customer's language, even if it's technically imperfect. And so repeating people's words back to them is profoundly effective. There's some interesting research in waiters and waitresses, where waiters and waitresses who repeated back a customer's order had higher tips, significantly higher tips than waiters and waitresses who didn't, even though both the accuracy of orders was exactly the same, whether you repeated back or not, because the people felt heard.
Yeah, I mean, this is so good, such gold, and we're only 23 minutes and 25 seconds in. But back when I was selling at Google Cloud, I did win awards for my prospecting abilities to break into what we call green fields. They're on AWS or Azure on the competition. Some of them were even meeting with Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, the week before. And I actually mirrored their language. I'd never met them, but like looking at their LinkedIn profile and how they talked about their role. And so would you say it also applies to things like cold emailing? Because it seems to have
100%. 100%. I'm not a huge fan of cold emailing in general.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's because I don't like being on the receiving end of it. But
Dan, I'm sorry. That's how this relationship started.
if there's value in it, inherent value in it, I think it's better. But that said, I do think that you can mimic on email. You can do strategically mimic on email. For instance, if you get, let's say you get something inbound, and it addresses you by, not I mean you, Chris, but just the folks out there. So let's say that you get an inbound of some kind, and it addresses you as Ms. Fernandez, and you get another one that addresses you as Dear Jane. You're better off responding to the first one with Dear Mr. Harris, whoever was emailing you, sort of using that more formal language, and then in the other one that used more informal language, Dear Bob. So you can mirror in that way too. You can mirror tonality, you can mirror formality, you can mirror actually exact language, and it works in digital realm. It also works face to face, or not in digital. It works asynchronously digitally, and it works synchronously, either over voice or video.
So right now we're in little boxes, right? We're virtual, and I can see, I could mimic a little, not that I want to overdo it. But if we were in person, wouldn't it be even more powerful if we were at like a lunch and say you were an executive that I did in a B2B sales role? And would you say like the mimicry is even more powerful in person?
I think so. And here's the thing. I wouldn't over-index on the mimicry, because I think that people who are, I think this is why I call it strategic. You want to be conscious of it.
Yeah.
You actually want to be in the moment, notice how the person is moving and behaving, and how they're gesturing and how they're sitting, and maybe mimic a little bit of that. But the thing is that that just simply being aware of that is going to make you more attuned. And when
Yeah.
you're more attuned, you're going to mimic naturally. So I wouldn't over-index on that. I would really focus on understanding what their issues are, understanding what their interests are, understanding what problems they have that they think they have, understanding what problems they might have that they don't realize. And in the course of doing that, particularly with the language, some strategic mimicry can help out a lot and help you find common ground with the people whom you're trying to persuade.